Hey everybody, welcome back to another 10-minute Marvel video. I'm Petter, and today I'm going to be going through my rankings for Phase 5 of the MCU. Just the movies, because we still do have one show left to come out in Phase 5 with Ironheart. So, before we get into it, I will just say I think my 5 through 3 could all flip or move around depending on my mood. So when you see one of these lists, understand that it is kind of just this snapshot and this moment. And I really do think that for the most part, Phase 5 delivered some pretty enjoyable products. Not all of them great, but a lot more fun than probably people would say. And in particular, I think even my 6 I find fun. And my 6 is Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. This movie just had two elements that kind of let me down. The first being the ending. Now, well, both really being about the ending, but the ending where Ant-Man and Wasp don't end up trapped in the quantum realm. I think that makes for a more interesting story than kind of this narration of is everything fine that we got at the end. And obviously with what has happened with Kang, based off of what's happened with Jonathan Majors, I think that would have been a better ending because it would have given the characters somewhere to go forward from there. Right now, everything is just so wrapped up in Kang that I don't know what you do with Ant-Man going forward. Then the other part is just the ants. The ants coming in to help the battle and really beating Kang. The ants being the ones to beat Kang. Yeah, it matches some of the silliness of the movie, but it doesn't feel like a good payoff. I enjoy most of the rest of the silliness in the movie. I like how wild they got to be with the quantum realm, but the ants that's just a miss for me. At number 5, I'm going to have Captain America Brave New World. Now, I suspect that this one probably would be flipped with my number 4 for a lot of people, but this one's just a little bit lower for me because I felt like I could see the seams a little bit more. Now, I think the seams were probably, well, the reshoots were probably necessary because I kind of suspect that the original Serpent Society felt too comic booky for the seriousness of this film, with Thunderbolt Ross, with the assassination attempt, with Samuel Stearns and his objectives, and a goofier sub-villain wouldn't have felt right. And it's not like Giancarlo Esposito did a bad job and taking on the role. I think he actually did a very solid job with it. It's just because there were the reshoots, because things were changed up, even potentially the ending was changed up, since I think they potentially even shot a funeral for Thaddeus Ross in this film. So I'm fine that didn't happen. I'm excited to potentially have more Red Hulk, to have more Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, but just feel the seams a little bit more. And then my number 4 is going to be the Marvels. And the Marvels, I think, it's above Brave New World for me, at least right now, in this moment, because Iman Vellani is just so good, and Tanoia Paris is good in this. And while Brie Larson doesn't nail what they're trying to give her character to do in this, they give Captain Marvel the right things to do in this film. Captain Marvel is an extremely powerful character. They run into the same problem with the Hulk. you have to come up with a reason to nerf the Hulk's powers. And the Hulk's powers, I think it's a little bit easier to nerf because you're fighting between control of the Hulk. It's easier to take that down a notch. And they haven't done a good job with Captain Marvel until this film. It just wasn't necessarily portrayed as well as it could have been. And with this film, though, it works because they give her one, she has to deal with the consequences of her actions. She has to deal with the consequences of her powers. And I think that that's a really important thing for that character. What happens when the all-powerful character makes a decision, such as destroying the Supreme Intelligence, and doesn't think about the ramifications of what they're doing? What happens when you create a super powerful character creates a power vacuum? Who's going to fill that power vacuum? But it's not only that. They give her that element as well, but it's also then she has to deal with how other people see her and being a role model. Whether or not she wants to be a role model, she is. And this, again, comes down to kind of the consequences of her actions, where Kamala takes the wrong lesson of, like, okay, being a hero means that you have to sacrifice some people. And as much as she wants to save somebody else and save the Skrulls, she takes what her hero says to heart and acts upon it. And now Captain Marvel really has to deal with that acting upon it and the fact that what she does matters. And again, they're both kind of the same thing, but I like how they tackle it from two different directions. Then my number 3, remember my 3 through 5 could change depending on my mood, is Deadpool and Wolverine. This was actually when we were doing the podcast. I had it at 5 at one point in time and then bumped it up just because I'm like, no, if I go by the standard of which one I want to watch most, Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool and Wolverine is a really fun film. It has great humor. I like the characters that were brought into it. I like the fact that we get to see X-23 again, and that we get to have Gambit showing off his fighting abilities. Cassandra Nova is a great villain character in this. Super creepy portrayal by Emma Corrin. But the stakes feel less. Like, the stakes in the Marvels and Captain America Brave New World feel like they matter more, which is saying something, since the stakes of Deadpool and Wolverine are his universe dying, but they're also then eventually Cassandra Nova trying to destroy all the universes. You don't feel those stakes, and you don't feel the character development that I think you get from the other two. But because it is lighter, funnier, it kind of falls into that. Yeah, I'd probably watch that over the other two. My number 2 then is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And I actually haven't seen this one since theaters, but it was that good. And the reason I haven't seen it since theaters is it's heartbreaking. The scenes with Lila, Floor, and Teefs and Rocket together, and just the experiments that the High Evolutionary is doing, it's a tough watch there. But then you also get a lot of really goofy, kind of funny moments as well that you would expect from a James Gunn film. And the hallway or corridor fight scene is an awesome fight scene. So there's a ton that's really good. And even the parts, I'm not going to say, like, the parts that are tough to watch are really good too. And I do also want to mention then Adam Warlock as well. I really enjoy that portrayal of a character whose power is so much greater than intelligence. and just what that looks like in this film. So that means my number one is the most recent out of all the films, and I don't think that should be a huge surprise. I'm trying to keep recency bias out of this, but when we did our review episode and when I did my review video on the Thunderbolts asterisks, I said this is a good film. Not just a good superhero film. This is just an overall good film because it deals with things that are really human. The idea of these characters feeling isolated and alone, and that nobody really understands them, and that they don't have purpose, and just how much purpose and meaning can be driven from having a group of people around you who empathize and sympathize and care is just so enjoyably well done in this film. And they blend in the humor well, but the story that you get from John Walker, from Sentry, and especially from Yelena is just phenomenally done. And I really like how this is not the typical Marvel villain, both in terms of the Void, but also in terms of Val. She's a villainous character. She's a really bad character. Bad person as a character, that character is, but it's this political maneuvering versus villainy that, like traditional superhero villainy of rob a bank or beat some people up and have to have a big fight against that main villain. It's done completely differently, and I love the maneuvering to create the new Avengers at the end. It's such an enjoyable and good film. Let me know how you'd rank them. You can drop that down in the comment section below, or I do have a post over on the post tab where you can leave those as well. And if you enjoy this content, please give the video a thumbs up. And if you want to check out both my and Greg's rankings, you can do that on the 10 Minute Marvel podcast. To find the podcast, click onto the channel, subscribe, and click that notification bell if you haven't already. We appreciate everybody who has joined recently and everybody who's checking out the videos. And then click on the podcast tab, or you can search for 10 Minute Marvel wherever you get your friendly neighborhood podcast from. But with that, we'll see you next time.